Right.
Just so, I know that there's no one in the room, but as far as I'm concerned, we're performing this for the camera and posterity. So, voices nice and loud. Everybody who's giving evidence and whatnot, loud voices. And
there's you. Don't move anymore. You just sit down.
Okay. So are you on? Are you live now?
Not yet. I just got to press the button. So much, yeah.
Let me know when you're live.
Oh, yeah.
Have to have a description. Sure.
You're rolling, Jude? Cool. Just let me know when you're on. And if I'm standing, is that cool?
Yeah, just don't lie.
For you, Jude?
My what?
If I'm standing, is that, can you see me?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Just don't
For the sake of
go that way.
okay, so we're broadcasting live now at the Australian Free Comedy Forum, and this is the inaugural Joke Tribunal, of which I'm sure there will be many. To frame the proceedings, I'm going to do a bit of a backstory as to how we ended up here, and it went like this. A few weeks ago, the defendant here, Carl Joseph, did a joke here at the room, and one of the audience members, performers, called him out for it. I was a bit surprised that well, the joke was meant to be offensive, and then the conversation ensued that night when I discovered that this is the type of joke people get banned for from a bunch of different rooms. There was this consensus that people are banned for jokes now all around Melbourne. No one's written the rules down, from what I understand, but it's all done on an ad hoc basis. So fast forward to the 25th of June, I was not in attendance here at the Highlander due to the fact that I'd had spinal fusion surgery approximately 10 to 12 days previous. So I was high on endone, and when I got a phone call from Blaze White, who had run the night, alerting me to the fact that the defendant here, Carl Joseph, had told another offensive joke, and it had already gotten itself onto the internet. Now, my understanding was after the joke was made, Blaze's MC called out the joke for what it was, in his opinion. We would have spoken to Carl about the content of the joke itself, and we would have done it all internally. However, because Mr. Gavin Semple chose to go public and name Blaze White as the MC, who he claimed at the time had dealt with it on the night, you could quickly work out that it was traced back to the Highlander, and obviously a room that runs under my auspice. At the same time, contemporaneously, on that Wednesday morning, a Facebook message thread that contained over 30 people who claimed to be room runners at the Melbourne comedy scene. Instantly on that thread, Kaylee Christian announced that there had been an upsetting rape joke told. Knowing Kaylee Christian as I did, I realised that she was already on the warpath and that we were going to have to do something as opposed to do nothing. The information was out in the information out in the internet was already erroneous. Gavin had made a statement that wasn't even true. He tried to paint the defendant here, Carl Joseph, as somebody who didn't listen to advice. Nobody gave him advice. He left the room quite quickly because he had to catch his bus. Gavin interpreted that as somebody who wasn't prepared to listen to anybody else's point of view. And so already the shaggy dog was racing off down the street. Now Kaylee Christian was involved. Well, we had no idea where it would end up. It was at that point, high on endone, I decided after my 10 days of recuperation of spinal surgery that we would convene a joke tribunal to put the defendant ostensibly on trial in a quasi-judicial setting. And here we find ourselves at Joke Tribunal. The members of the tribunal are Pradeepa Timmermans, who is an elder of the comedy community. I won't apologise for that because you are quite old. There's nothing wrong with it. I met Pradeepa many years ago back at Champagne Comedy in the Armidale, and Pradeepa's got an amazing take on what constitutes jokes that may or may not cross the line. I thought she'd be a wonderful person to invite onto this tribunal. It needs to be pointed out that on this very same Melbourne Comedy Room Runners private thread, I announced that I was going to have a tribunal and said, who would like to sit on the tribunal? I got no response from anyone who runs a room in Melbourne, despite the fact they were already volunteering to ban this person from their comedy rooms, having not heard the joke and having not seen his act and didn't even know who he was. Kel O'Connell, however, is right here, and Kel O'Connell runs a room in Ballarat, and he said, oh, I'll do the tribunal, but it should go on record that nobody from the Melbourne comedy community was prepared to step up and put their money where their mouth is when it turned out that someone had possibly transgressed the rules. I find this to be ridiculous. In fact, a whole bunch of people who shall remain nameless started insisting that these things should be done on an ad hoc basis by room runners individually based on individual situations. I find that to be a ridiculous state of affairs, considering we're talking about banning people from what I consider to be a basic human right, the right to get a microphone and yell at people in a room, whether they want to hear it or not. I think we'll all agree that that is a basic human right. I asked Pradeepa to...
Are you still high on endo?
I've already had 6 today. So I asked Pradeepa if she was on the tribunal. She is on the tribunal. Sophie Prince came to Station 59, the incredibly infamous room that I ran for a long time there, and called out a comic one night for some material she wasn't that impressed with, and then promptly marched up to me and said, I suppose I'm banned now for doing that. I said, no, I don't ban people. I'm interested in running spaces where people are allowed to take risks, say whatever they like, offend as many people as they like, and still get to come back and keep trying. I'm of the belief that the next generation of good comics will be the comics that try and break new ground, as opposed to talk about Tinder and shit they had for lunch. Because I didn't ban Sophie, I've got to work with Sophie for the past 6 years. That would have been the dumbest thing I ever did, banning Sophie Prince from Station 59. She came down and participated in Yes All Women. She wasted a lot of money on sanitary napkins over that journey, which I kept telling her she could claim on tax. I don't know whether she ever did. I suppose you need a taxable income to do that. And the chair of the tribunal today is Bruce McNabb. Bruce is a comedian I met, once again, same time I met Pradeepa, way back in the days of Champagne Comedy. Is lawyer-based and legal comedy I always found incredibly amusing because I like that sort of shit. And my first choice to chair this was actually Jeremy Dixon, but he turned it down for a bunch of different grounds, and all of them I ended up agreeing with, even though I would have loved to have put an anarchist on a tribunal. That was my main reason for asking Jeremy. So that is the preamble that explains why we're here. If you're out there in internet land or in this room trying to work it all out, there are a lot of hoople-headed people in the Melbourne comedy scene, and I imagine it'll take you a while to get your heads around what are ostensibly sets of facts. I'm now going to hand over the running of the proceedings to the tribunal chair, Bruce McNabb. It'll be a short hearing as we go. We'll be hearing from 4 witnesses today. I'll be questioning all of them, handing over to the tribunal to ask any supplementary questions. Having heard all of the evidence, the tribunal will then convene and will work out a judgment that will include their reasons for making the decisions, any observations they may have made either way, and there will be some sort of penalty imposed, we think, unless we're able to find the defendant not guilty, which is probably not going to be the case. On account of the fact that when I rang him the next day to talk to you about it, he said, yeah, I did that. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Carl for stepping up and saying that he'd be involved in something like this. As a new comedian, something like this I imagine would be quite scary to a lot of people. But I said, you know, in the end down at Highlander, we're actually pretty good people, as it turns out. Don't listen to what other people say, listen to what we say. We're good people. So I'll now hand over to Bruce McNabb, and we'll give you a bit of a preamble, and then we'll begin the proceedings.
Well, thank you, Brian. I've only just learnt that I was second choice, but nevertheless. As a matter of formality, I'd like to declare the tribunal formally established.
Yep. There's
The
no microphones,
tribunal,
Bruce, so you might want to project.
the tribunal may, from time to time, reconstitute itself with different members and different chairpersons, but nevertheless, I declare that the tribunal is established and will have a continuing legal effect. The defendant, or the comedian in question, as I understand it, has submitted to the jurisdiction, and he did so prior to the announcement of the powers of the tribunal, which I think for the purposes of tonight I should read.
Would you require Carl to formally submit to the jurisdiction?
Well, let me read the powers first, and then he can
Make that decision. Okay.
This was, and these were, the rules of the tribunal have been based on the Racing Appeals Tribunal rules, because I thought that was as good as any. And they'll be published online, but we have some certain powers, which are as follows. To the extent permitted by law, the powers of the tribunal shall be unlimited, and specifically they shall include the powers delegated to the Commissioner of Taxation under Section 165.55 of a new tax system, Goods and Services Tax Act 1999.
Sorry, which one was that?
Section 165.55. Adapted as required, and these are as follows. The tribunal may A. treat a particular event that actually happened as not having happened, and B. treat a particular event that did not actually happen as having happened, and if appropriate, treat the event as having happened at a particular time and having involved particular action by a particular entity, and C. treat a particular event that actually happened as 1. having happened at a time different from the time it actually happened, or having involved particular action by a particular entity, whether or not that event actually involved any action by that entity. Now, if you consider those powers unreasonable, speak to the Commissioner of Taxation about them.
I'm pretty
These
sure
are
they're all
the powers of the tribunal.
They're also that's also exactly how Melbourne comedy works. Like they're always talking about things that didn't happen and hadn't happened.
Well, indeed,
It's very
right.
apt.
I like to usurp those powers for the purposes of my routine, and then if my timing's out, I can unilaterally subsequently declare that the timing was perfect by delivering the punchline at a time different from the time it was actually delivered.
Do you formally admit to submit to that?
Formally submit.
The defendant formally submits to those to that jurisdiction.
Thank you. Proceed.
Proceed. Okay. I'm going to go and just close the kitchen door, as all good tribunals should do. And then I would like to call the defendant Carl Joseph to the stand, please.
Now?
Yeah, that's it there.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's actually a
Seat.
rather than a stand.
Okay, Carl, I'm going to be asking the questions from behind you. You don't have to. Feel free to speak to the front of the camera,
Yeah.
just because it's a shit. The setup, the whole thing's pretty shit. Can you just state your name, please?
Carl Joseph.
Excellent. Do you swear to tell the whole truth?
Sorry.
Oh, that's a beer, isn't it?
It was.
Is it full?
Yeah.
Just about.
Take a moment to remember that one.
I don't think the witness should be sworn. The Bible is an offensive text according to Rugby Union. Rugby League.
I think he's just going to affirm.
The Scotch oath will be sufficient.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Jolly good. On the 25th of June 2019 at the Highlander, you did tell a joke. Can you please tell us the joke as best you can remember it, so we know what joke it is that we're going to be judging?
Okay. So basically started off with getting some examples from 4 audience female members. I basically said to these female audience members, Man Crush Monday, who you trying to fuck? And they gave me their
It's
examples.
just for me, what is Man Crush Monday?
So imagine your celebrity, optimum, like your male celebrity, you dream male celebrity that you'd like to fuck.
Okay. What's the Monday got to do with it?
It's just relatable because it's
Good minds.
yeah.
Cool, go ahead.
Anyway, got my examples, and then I started off my joke. I said, as a premise, I don't condone rape. I don't believe it should be happening. I feel for all the victims. anyone that does raping is the lowest of low and should be punished accordingly. But maybe rape is only rape because it's done wrong. And then I said, as an example, onto that, remember all those times where you had a big night on the piss, spent half the night fucking vomiting, probably slept with someone that you didn't want to sleep with, and got AIDS. What did you say after that? You said, fuck, this is going to be the worst night. Oh, this was the worst night ever, I'm never going to fucking drink again. But that only happens once every 10 times. What about all those other 9 times where you actually have a good time, you still drink a lot, you still probably sleep with someone that you shouldn't have, but you didn't get AIDS, yay, and what did you say after that? Fuck, this is why I love drinking. So what if you're running in the park and then you get tackled, but you start to close your eyes and you don't know who it is and you're trying to fight it. It tackles you into a bush, but you don't land into a bush, you land into a $6,000 mattress that's warm, comfortable, and has blankets. And in one motion, you still have your eyes closed, somehow your pants are gone, you're chained up to some trees, and you're trying to fight it. So you're continuing trying to fight it, and out of nowhere, you hear this voice, and it says, hey, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And then that's when you open your eyes and you see your Man Crush Monday, gave 4 examples, in between your legs. And then he asks you, hey, you know, have you ever come before? You say no, I'm a female, I don't come. And then he says it's okay, it's the first time for everything. So then proceeds to slowly touch you, get you warmed up, and then he proceeds to make you feel good, touches all the right places, then you end up coming, unchains you, puts your pants back on, and then ends with the selfie, and you have a good experience. Now it's maybe not what I needed, it's most likely not what I wanted, but maybe it's what I didn't know what I wanted at the time. And that was the joke.
That's it?
That was it.
Okay, fair enough. And your recollection, can I just ask, when did you cognitively come up with the idea of doing that joke in terms of proximity to the performance? I mean, was it the day before?
No, 15 minutes before stage.
Okay, so you thought of all that 15 minutes before you walked onto the stage?
Correct.
All right. And what's your recollection of the reaction of the audience to you saying all of that?
My recollection is as soon as I said rape, someone stood up and left. I thought that was just courteous of someone who, you know, was obviously walking into a rape joke and wasn't going to like it and left out of courtesy, which I thought was cool. Otherwise, the rest of everyone that was there, from my recollection, was trying to not laugh, but were laughing. We had a few audience members at the front, audience members at the back who were laughing, and it looked like to me, I mean, I know what a smile looks like, I guess, so people were enjoying it.
Okay, and I asked you that on the Wednesday when we spoke on the phone, why do you want to do comedy? What's the reason you want to do comedy?
Because I feel like comedy right now is in a very safe place where it's just no longer funny to me, and I've grown up on comedy as something where I can just something that I can enjoy, dark, offensive, whatever it is. I do believe that there is a funny in everything, and as comedians, it's our job to say something, have a perspective, and make light of a dark situation. And that's what I want to do in comedy, is just to be able to do that, regardless of whatever topic it is.
When we spoke on the phone, you said you wanted to outrage and offend people. Would that be a true statement as well?
Yeah, I mean, if my jokes offend you, then that's on you. I don't intend to. That's not my job. My job isn't to. My intent when I tell my jokes isn't to offend people. And you would know if I'm trying to insult people. If I want to insult people, I just straight up insult them. Yeah. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to tell a joke. I'm here to give. I'm here to say something. I'm here to say something.
Okay, I'm going to call a few more witnesses, and then we might ask you back to give your ask for your reflections on what you hear from them. So the next witness I'd like to call is Blaze White, who was the MC that evening. Yep, cool. So you guys, I've got the live stream sorted. Excellent. State your name, please. Blaze White. And you to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Good man. All right, you were MC that night. You saw the routine. What is your recollection of what happened?
My recollection is the defendant was on relatively early in the night. Definitely in the first 5 or 6 acts. It was a pretty full room.
My information is was on first. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Yeah, because there was one more and Gavin was on third. That would be correct.
Okay, cool. I'm not challenging your ability to recall things.
A lot of acts in the open mic.
25, I think it was that night.
It was a huge one. Anyway, the defendant, as I said before,
Would you agree with his, you don't have to recount the whole joke, we've already heard it, would you agree with the defendant's recollection? Of
the recollection of the joke itself, I would agree with 100%. I couldn't have recalled it more accurately. Though there was an uncomfortableness in the room that I believe came from inexperience of such a complicated subject. One of the women the approach at the start was my partner, my girlfriend, and there definitely was a level of unease, confusion. In saying that, I've heard more offensive jokes. I have heard worse jokes in other rooms, and by more experienced comics than the defendant. But, his recollection of the joke was accurate, but I would add there was an uncomfortableness in the room and an awkward tension, especially when he left the stage and I came back onto the stage as the MC.
So a lot of people would claim that grabbing a microphone and talking to strangers in a room, it gives you've got some responsibility to make sure that the space is safe. There's a lot of commentary around these days about spaces being safe. Did you ever feel that during the routine that the defendant was making various individuals in the room feel unsafe in a serious sense?
It's hard to tell because the word "feel" you use there. It's hard for me to tell how other people felt, but as the room runner and judging the room, I felt that nobody was in any serious physical or any physical danger. I had no feeling the room was going to spiral out of control. Everything I still believe was safe, though you can't express how people felt on the inside. I personally didn't feel unsafe, and talking to another witness, which was my girlfriend who was involved in the joke, I would say that she didn't feel unsafe but more uncomfortable.
Okay, so we've found a line between unsafe and uncomfortable. It was your job to take the stage after the defendant set. What did you say? Can you remember what you said in response to what he'd done?
I brought it up, and I think at the start I went wow and tried to break that tension in the air and addressed the elephant in the room and brought up the fact that when he said no, if it was somebody that landed on the mattress and he took it gentle and it was your Man Crush Monday, would it still be rape? And I pointed out the fact that what would make it not rape is if you looked up and gave consent. Like if Channing Tatum pushed me onto a mattress of roses under the stars and made love with me, I'd probably give consent straight away, and if I didn't give consent, then it would still be rape. I tried to make that clear to the audience of what rape actually is, which is the lack of consent. And during Carl's story, as beautiful as he painted it out for some people, there was no consent given in the story.
That's actually quite educated of you, I would just comment.
We try to educate people here at the Highland.
It's all right. Every day's a school day.
That's it, you never stop learning.
It's true. So I suppose, look, my final question would be, it was in Gavin Semple's post, he gave the impression, almost made a pretty clear statement on the internet, and we're here to provide a record of the truth. He seemed to imply that both you and he had spoken to Carl after the gig, and that Carl was completely not interested in listening to your opinion. Is that the truth?
That is not what happened. What happened after the gig is Carl left the room. When I got up on stage, I saw him leave the room. That's not strange, especially as a comic, if you bomb, which, sorry Carl, you bombed, to leave the room to regain yourself before coming back into the room. What I saw happen is Carl leave the room after he said something that I've done many times. He regained the room very shortly after.
Bombed.
No, can I not have that on record? We'll edit that out.
Dude, you said you
Blaze has bombed.
the whole truth, nothing wrong. Mister, you're on the road. I want the truth. Sorry.
Perhaps if we could pause for a moment and make a finding that Blaze has bombed.
I'm just making that note.
Make that record.
Carl then entered the room again very shortly after leaving when Gavin Semple was on stage. Gavin then addressed the elephant in the room once again of what happened to the joke, gave his say. I believe he apologised to all women for men. Which I do remember. I do remember.
Big of him.
I do remember quoting
So
Gavin.
Donald Trump is off the hook according to Gavin Semple.
The greatest sacrifice in that of Jesus.
He's like, yeah, exactly. should have got the bloody crucifix out.
And Carl then left the room. At the stage, I thought Gavin handled it pretty well. As long as Michael, you do need to bring it up. Carl left the room. I could see how it appeared that he would leave, but it certainly didn't go along the stage where me and Gavin pulled him aside and said, "Hey, buddy, you can't be saying this," and then he walked away. I can't speak if Gavin meant to make it sound like that's what happened in his post. I believe that some people could read it and make it seem like that's what happened. But me and Gavin never had a face-to-face interaction with Carl explaining that the joke was not okay. The only interaction we had was on stage and Carl was walking in and out of the room as that happened.
Just finally, you did share a private message with Gavin after the gig. Gavin sought an assurance from you that this would be dealt with, is that correct?
Yes, he did.
And you assured him that it would be dealt with?
That would be.
And do you think that after you assured him that it was necessary for him to go on Facebook and make that comment?
I don't think it was necessary. Whatever helps you. I can't put down to Gavin and what he wants to do. If he wants to raise awareness, that's fine. But I did assure him that it would be handled internally. And then it blew up, and now we're live on Facebook.
I'm not sure that that's a matter of the tribunal.
Before I hand it over to the tribunal, I would like to state for the record that I invited Gavin to give evidence tonight. I think he's otherwise engaged doing gig. I said a written statement would suffice. He basically said, "You're not a court, I don't have to do what you say." So he did refuse to give evidence in his own words.
I will tell the tribunal he has commented on the live stream.
Gavin,
okay, good
Gavin, we are in court.
Yes.
However, you're not on trial.
Can I just hand over to, I'll let you guys get an opportunity to question the defendant when we go for re-examination, but I'll just hand over to the tribunal. Any questions for Blaze? No? No? Okay.
There's probably nothing that's going to go with this, but when did that bombing happen?
We've only got half an hour left. Thank you very much. You may take your seat. Stand applaud. Good order. Thank you. It's not a fucking show trial. That's what it is. Yeah, it's like Judge Judy with bloody bells on. The following witness I'd like to call, did I see Tony walk into the room then? Oh, you are here. No, that's not you. I thought he was here. The next witness I'd like to call is Judy Stutz. Judy Stutz, please take the witness's chair. Can you say your name, please, for the tribunal?
My name is Judy Stutz. That's J to the U to the D to the E. STUTZ. So
Thank you very much, Judy. So a deaf jam will be. Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yep.
Good. Please don't rap anymore. Maybe later in the show. But you were here that night and you witnessed the routine, and I seem to, from my conversation, you were actually involved in the routine. Can you tell me, to the best of your recollection, what you recall?
Pretty much what Mr. Frederick?
No, talk to me. Talk to the camera,
I was
please.
trying to remember his
Yes,
name.
I want to project too. Yeah.
So essentially what Carl said was what happened, but the difference is that he picked out individual female audience members,
Were you one of those?
and I was one of those members.
And what did he say to you during the routine?
He basically asked me how would I feel, if George Clooney, had essentially taken me, licked me out, and made me all happy, etc. I responded to that was felony sexual assault. But he continued on trying to convince me that because that consent wasn't necessary, it was all about whether you enjoy the physical act. I guess my upsetness was that he directly picked on individual women and asked incredibly personal details about sexual acts. What you can say to a group is one thing, but to ask an individual to detail or to respond to those sorts of questions ain't funny, it's just offensive.
Do you
No,
think?
but I haven't finished
Sorry.
yet. Then, the other thing that happened that worried me, that so far hasn't come up in the evidence, is that after he'd done his set, he then came down and sat exactly next to me. Now, I got to tell you, that was not funny, that was threatening, and I felt, well, I wondered, I didn't know, but I thought, what is wrong with this guy? There's a whole room of empty chairs and he's got to sit next to me to make me feel uncomfortable, to make me feel unsafe. Is he getting some sort of sick fun out of this? I don't know. But I was offended, upset, outraged. In fact, he came very close to getting an elbow into the jaw. But I restrained myself because I'm a professional.
My follow-up question, I think it's pretty obvious, but would you say that the defendant abused the privilege of being given a microphone and being able to address an audience by singling out people individually?
Absolutely.
Do you think that somebody, when they do that, when someone has a microphone and they're speaking to people in the audience, that they have a responsibility to consider the feelings of the people that they're speaking to?
Absolutely.
They're not just fodder for the comedy?
Correct.
And would you say, would you state for the record that you felt unsafe in these moments?
Yes.
Yep. Not just offended, not just outraged, but that you felt unsafe.
Yeah, as soon as he sat down next to me,
Yep.
right after he grilled me about my intimate sexual life, yeah, I felt unsafe.
Okay. I have no more further questions. The tribunal, would you like to ask Judy any questions?
It's difficult because you're not facing us. It's hard to ask questions. The joke that you heard tonight, I only heard it from behind. But the joke
Just project, so.
The joke that you heard Carl tell us tonight, was that what was told on the night? Because hearing your account of what happened, made me feel different to when Carl just told that joke before.
And the difference is, I think, in about the perception. I don't think, well, I don't know what was in Carl's mind, but, for example, when he started out, who's your favourite, you know, who's your man crush and whatever, none of the women really wanted to answer that because, well, I don't think they realised what a Monday crush was.
Yeah.
Because one of the women was at least my age, you know, 56 years old. Oh.
He's also assumed that they're all straight too.
Yeah, I've got...
Man, like it's all man crush.
Then, you know, when he's talking to me about licking me out, similar sorts of sexual practices were
That's
asked.
pretty full on. What
That-
time was it on a Tuesday night?
It was,
So 10 past 8.
yeah,
10 past 8. Yeah, I'd be pretty confronted with some...
Is there a time of day where that doesn't bother you, or
Probably a bit late. Probably a bit
a
later.
bit later?
A bit later on the bill.
So 9 o'clock?
Too early.
They call it the watershed in the UK.
So it's the MC's fault all along.
It's an open mic. I can, yeah. I'm sorry.
look, it's just, oh, sorry, my issue is not so much that it happened as to what his intentions were, because I couldn't work out whether he was genuinely trying to be funny or whether he was genuinely trying to...
I guess it's an open mic, so that's a fair view.
In retrospect, has your attitude to his routine, or did your attitude to his routine change after he sat next to you? If he had not sat next to you, would you have felt less, in retrospect, threatened by the content of his routine?
Yes, I think for me, the final act of actually sitting right next to me, just with that physical closeness, up until then, in my mind I was thinking, pardon my language, you fucking dickhead. But once he sat down next to me, I'm thinking,
You fucking dickhead with intent.
exactly.
Carl, were you aware at all that you were making Judy feel uncomfortable when you sat
That's a
down?
good question.
Sorry, I don't know what it is.
Go on.
I'm genuinely
Yeah, go on.
interested. Like,
No, not at all. I didn't know. I sat down next to Judy because that's where I came up on. That was my seat. So I just sat down there because that was my seat. In terms of uncomfortability, I mean, she did heckle, and I can't remember what I answered back. I think it was something like, maybe like, I said something like, by the way, I don't remember targeting her when I said, what if you Man Crush Monday was looking you out? I was saying that out to the audience from what I remember.
No. Sorry, shutting up now.
Maybe was I looking at you? I remember not looking at you.
I think
But-
early in comedy you often perceive the audience's reaction differently. Like you
What was,
said,
yeah.
you said I saw a smile, so I assume they were enjoying it. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did a stupid throwaway line in my comedy show. Some guy came to see his girlfriend back the following night, was going to punch me out for it. You know, it's impossible to sometimes tell how these things are made.
But I mean, like, she echoed, and then we had a back and forth. But she, I mean, I didn't know she was feeling threatened or unsafe.
Have you ever been singled out as an audience member before?
Yeah, heaps of times. But then it's different, right? Like, I'm not the type to get offended. And I understand that if I'm here in the community environment, I expect that. Like,
Yeah.
come in. If you're a comedian and I'm sitting in the front row, I'm asking for it. Like, and come. Because that's what makes it fun. But that's just me. I can't speak on behalf of other people, and if they get offended, that's their choice. I'm sorry if I do offend them. That's not my intention, like I said. But yeah, I don't use people as fodder. Like, I was literally just trying to get examples to work my job.
Asking someone about being leaked out is kind of making you a fodder.
I can't remember asking, like, it
You
was...
seem so polite and lovely, it's hard to hate you.
That's coming from Sophie Bruce.
Like, from what I see, it's like it's a joke that needs work and it was told poorly and singling
Well,
you out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so okay.
Can I just make a point that post-routine contact is beyond the jurisdiction of this tribunal?
Post-routine conduct.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
Well,
We
you
should
might maybe
clarify
include
that.
that in. That's an overture thing to put in the judgment. Maybe.
It is a joke tribunal, not a person tribunal.
Yes.
What's the difference?
Well, if he's done a crime... if
Oh
he's
no, we're judging the joke. We're not judging. We're not judging him.
It's not Carlos.
It's only ever the act.
He hatched the joke.
Is there no more further questions for Judy? Just aware of the time we want to do.
Sorry.
Thank you. Witness may be excused. And our final witness contacted me during the week. I'll just mention Tony Magnuson was on the list of witnesses for this evening that I published, and he's crook or something. So luckily we've got someone to fill in.
Well, can we issue a warrant for Tony's...
What's that?
Can we issue a warrant?
You told me you can't remember.
Well, a subpoena, yes, or a subpoena, yes.
Yeah.
We could have.
Tony has ex-tribunal...
I wanted to issue a subpoena for Gavin Semple, but just to see what would happen. I'd like to call to the stand Reese Halliwell. State your name for the record.
Reese Halliwell.
And you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Sure.
Can you give us, yeah, sure, do. Can you give us your recollection of what you saw that night? You were an eyewitness as well.
Okay, I was,
You just project for the camera.
Okay, so if Carl was first, then I believe I was third. I went up after Gavin. I was sitting back over there, so I had a pretty good view of the crowd. I had seen Carl act before that you mentioned, where he's going to do an interaction with the crowd. So I was, somewhat paying attention because I was, interested to see what he came up with, what he was doing this week, and also, trying to run through my set through my head because I'm a very nervous guy to get myself together. And so I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to the set until it started to get a little awkward. And my recollection of it was that very awkward, quiet. There's a lot of nervous sort of energy in the room.
So your impression was not necessarily the same as Carl's. Carl thought that people were laughing and it went quite well.
I don't recall. The laughter I remember came from the responses from Judy and the responses from some of the other women that he asked. I think towards the start there might have been some nervous chuckling, something along those lines, but I didn't hear any, genuine laughs from the crowd at punchlines or jokes.
Do you think that he, in your opinion, did he create an environment that you would consider was unsafe?
I wouldn't say unsafe. I think if the crowd was responding well to his material, it probably would have made some of the people feel uncomfortable. But I think it was sort of a unanimously awkward situation with everyone in the crowd feeling the same way. So I feel like if it was, if there was a few genuine laughs, then maybe some people would think, okay, there's some people here who are into this. But in general, I got the impression of just sort of awkward. So.
Did you believe that when Blaze came on stage afterwards that he confronted the material and dealt with it in that situation?
I think he did a good job. Yeah, he didn't come across as too harsh or too coddling. It was just the right response that you would expect in a situation like that.
You contacted me wanting to talk about the tribunal and the material. Is there any other comments that you'd like to add about the joke that night and what you think about about everything in totality?
I mean, I think if you're going to do something as edgy as that, you want to really. Obviously you have to work on things. You can't come out of the gate with a fully formed joke, but I would say if you've got something that's that sort of dark and you're doing it, especially with audience participation, it's going to be an awkward situation. You really want to have a a solid punch to it. You don't want to just. I got the impression it was a little rambly, and the audience was waiting for a punchline, like a tension of just, is he going to say something funny yet? Because this is really uncomfortable, and that's the impression I got. And
so you would say
if he came out and just had a great closing punchline, it might have been a.
So you built a lot of tension, but the tension was never released.
The tension didn't dissipate.
Okay. That sounds like most of my gigs.
Is there any room for audience comment?
No.
No? Okay. I've got something fundamental
If you wanted to give
say.
evidence, and you weren't there.
Sorry, okay.
Perhaps you
We're
could
not-
address
we're-
the chair
it's
with
not-
your concerns.
This is the chair of the tribunal. You may wish to make some input, but he's in no way bound to take
I'm
into
keen,
consideration.
just yell it out. It's a joke tribunal,
My-
rules aren't set.
We're a house running.
See?
What would you like to say?
Yeah.
Are there any questions from the tribunal? I have no further questions from me.
I have a question. What was Jess going to say?
Would you keep your other tribunal members in line, please? Go on.
Alright. There's a fundamental flaw in this, in that when Carl spoke at the start, he said that he doesn't like where comedy is going, and he loves offensive comedians, but then he said that the jokes that he tells, he doesn't mean any offence, so he's already contradicted himself. So you do mean offence, and you do want to offend people, because your favourite comedians are people who offend you or offend others. So there's already a fundamental flaw in the joke that you've told. There's also another flaw in the joke where I want to ask. You've said that, you said at the start something along the lines of maybe it's called rape because it's done wrong. Are you implying that if a woman orgasms during rape that she is enjoying it and that then it's done right?
No, so I wasn't.
Because that's what it sounds like you're saying, which actually compounds the issue and makes it worse.
Yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from, but that wasn't like, I wasn't implying anything, I was simply posing a question from a different perspective.
Okay.
Now, whether you answer it with whatever answer is, it's up to you, because I'm posing a question. So I'm not implying anything, I'm not saying it is this or it is that. I'm saying, is this what it is?
So given
The
the
choice is up to you.
outcome, are you still happy with that joke?
I feel like it does need a lot more work. You
wouldn't just can it because it obviously sucks?
Well, I mean, it sucks, but hey, something sucks. Like a tree sucks before it starts growing. Like, things got to grow from a solid foundation. You got to work on things. So you're not 100% out of the box. Nothing is that good. So,
And in Carl's defence, I would say that his joke is not a great joke. There's a whole bunch of work that needs to be done on it. Maybe it'll just end up in the bin. I've got no idea.
It needs a punchline.
It needs a punchline. It probably needs a few little tags along the way. But and we had a long conversation about how you do harsh material and where likability is important. But I think the joke is in the fantastical area. It's there's so much supposition of stupidity of like the $6,000 mattresses, and people getting like. So I don't know whether it's fair to then jump to this business of if a woman orgasms during rape, it wasn't rape. I mean, what you're doing there is you're taking his joke and trying to put something on him that I don't think is really who he is. So just as his advocate in this situation, I would defend him on that score of taking it. I think that's the problem with these conversations is that, because someone likes a certain type of humour, they must, because you like jokes about Ted Bundy, then you must want to be a serial killer. It's just not, this does not make any sense, I think. So I would say we've no more further questions for Reese.
Sorry, we didn't ask you any questions.
No, sorry, Reese.
Would you say the awkward, uncomfortable feeling was similar to when all the other open mic comedians on the night also bombed?
No, very, very different. I mean, I think when it wasn't very it's a different feeling.
So
it's a tense.
So it wasn't just a regular bombing, it was
No, I've never seen someone walk off stage to no applause before. Like that's the first time I've seen that.
So you're saying no applause and you're saying, people were
Was there an applause? I don't remember. No, I remember silence, walking off, which I don't think will.
So he's already been punished.
That would be, yeah. I would say that if I was in that situation, I would feel horrific.
How did your set go?
I came up and did something. I mean, it was weird because Gavin had addressed it, and then I had to come up and just do my dumb bit about having celiac disease. I kind of towards the end, I guess you could classify as a rape joke, but it was about getting an endoscopy, being similar to being double teamed by a robot octopus. So, which got a good response from the crowd. So, it can be done.
Would you encourage Carl to keep working on that joke, or do you reckon just scrap it?
I mean, I'd have to see what else he's got in his notebook and stuff, and say, hey, maybe switch to this one, or I don't know. I'm not saying it couldn't possibly be funny, but I'm saying that it probably needs more than 50%.
Would you say that he's got to stop coming up with these sorts of things 15 minutes?
Yeah, 15 minutes before getting up is probably not the ideal time.
I mean, if I've got a joke that's tough subject matter, I'll take weeks leading up to it. Yeah, I go decide to try it out because, the pressure's on and, I mean, it's horses for courses. I mean, one of the things I want to reiterate is this is a space where I want people to learn and to be able to fail and to be able to get back up and do it.
Oh, we're
because
very
if
good
the
at
over,
failing.
yeah, well,
The tribunal won't fail, right?
if there,
We are ironclad.
there are enough runes that are banning people for stepping outside the line, and pretty soon the line will be about this narrow. So, look, thanks very much, Reece. You're excused. That brings, I'll just call Carl Joseph just another couple of minutes for re-examination. Do you want to ask him a couple more questions? Can you just jump in the chair, please, Carl? And I think the tribunal might have a couple more questions for you. I'm not sure.
What about if we want to say something to Carl? Would that
Yes.
come after?
Oh, we're during the judgment. You can do that. You can say it now. I'm not a stickler for the procedure.
If it's a question,
Yeah, you put it in a question. I really only have a couple of questions. So, Carl, when you gave your evidence before about the joke, you told how it went. As far as you were concerned, people laughed, thought it was okay. You've now heard from people who were subject to your audience participation. You've now heard from people who you sat next to. You've heard from other comics that read the room a particular way. Do you feel any differently about the effect of what it was that you did?
Yeah, no, most definitely.
What do you think?
So after just hearing everyone's perspectives, I can obviously see that everyone's feeling a different way, but there wasn't a general consensus of how, I don't feel like it was a very solid consensus of how everyone felt up in the room. So everyone felt differently as individuals, as you do, because everyone is different. And I understand that there's everyone's got their own sort of threshold in terms of what they do find is crossing the line or offensive or that's unsafe. I understand that I do have a lot of work that I need to put into this joke. I know I'm not going to count it though, because I do feel like I can somehow figure out, with a lot of work, how to make it work. And that's something that I do want to do. After this, I'm definitely going to put a lot more thought into racy and edgy jokes moving forward. But I need to have a platform and an audience to be able to do so. I know that, I guess, the way that I approach things when I don't beat around the bush isn't going to apply to everyone else around me. So I do need to be wary of how people are going to feel, how people tick, and how I can, I guess, maneuver a bit better. And yeah.
By way of an anecdote, when I was performing in Edinburgh last year, I had an audience of about 15 people. 14 of these people were on my side, one woman come in late. She voted Conservative, she came to watch my show because my show was called Australia Origin of Fucked, and she was interested in hearing from, progressive lefty people. Halfway through the show I could tell she wasn't enjoying it, and so I said to her, you don't seem to be enjoying this, it's a free show, you don't have to stay. You can leave if you want. She goes, no, keep on going. We had a bit of an argument about a couple of things I'd said, and I felt the audience over here starting to turn on her. And with the rush of blood when that happens, you think, oh, I can get everyone to turn on this person. And I actually said to the rest of them, oh, don't turn on this person. She's come in to listen to an opposite point of view. If more people did that, I think we'd be in a better place human-wise. Let's try and appreciate the fact she came to hear from an opposite point of view. It didn't do much, she only put a pound in the bucket. But I tell the story only to illustrate that, before I ask this question, do you think when you walk onto a stage and you've got a microphone that makes the words big, that you've got a responsibility to take a little bit of care about the people who are in the audience, as opposed to seeing them as, fodder for your whatever you want to do? If it's audience participation or whatever. Do you feel that you've picked up on that a bit?
100%. No, I definitely understand that. I've always understood that. I think my approach of how I did it then and there was not the best.
Okay.
But I've always understood that. I think just my approach and the way that I did approach it at the time, probably, it didn't work out. And I'm too straightforward of a person, and I think that's what just sort of came off as just like, I guess to the audience members, disgusting.
Yep.
So I get that.
Any questions, further questions from the tribunal for Carl before you retire to make your judgment?
I've got a question, and it's not to make fun of you, but I don't actually get what was funny. I don't actually understand any part of it. Can you explain to me which part was supposed to be funny?
Well, none.
But you're here doing comedy, doing a joke, supposed to be inviting people to laugh, and yet you can't tell me which part of the gag
It's
is
an
funny.
important jurisdictional point, because if it's not a joke,
well, that's the thing, like I didn't have a punchline. I thought the idea was what I was working with. I mean, like I came up with it then and there. It was just like, alright, I sort of see an angle of this sort of topic. To me, what made me chuckle was, and that's just me, it was the whole part of, is it rape because, maybe it's just rape because it's done wrong. And then it just precedences the joke into like, this is interesting, and this doesn't look like it's going to be a very good joke, or whatever have you. But that was the initial line that made me chuckle, and then flesh it out, frame it, whatever.
Can you understand that what makes you chuckle makes, I would say, pretty much 100% of women absolutely repulsed?
Yeah.
The idea that you could make it enjoyable enough to overstep the line of consent is absolutely repulsive, especially in a community, especially in a world where for so many centuries men have thought that it's no, no, no until it's yes, right? Women have been pushed. You want to know how repulsive it is, go and watch Rocky. And go and watch the scene where Rocky kisses that girl for the first time. And you will see that from a modern perspective, if she was in a rape situation, but it was considered normal back then, that's only 40 years ago. So to a woman, and also I'll add that I've learned that incarceration in the United States is going up at such an alarmingly accelerating rate that the issue of rape in future is going to be, the women are going to be outnumbered by incarcerated men. And most incarcerated men in the States are African American heritage. So will this become a black male issue in future? If you're going to come up with jokes that are going to involve such sensitive issues such as rape, you better have a really fucking good message behind it. And you better be really fucking funny. And you really better put some fucking work into it. Because otherwise, we will ask you to leave. Not officially. I can't speak for Kieran, but I can speak pretty much for the sisters. We won't accept it. And we will not accept, if someone comes in continually with such lack of respect and such lack of thought with an issue like this, we will start to boycott the venue.
Yeah.
Thank you. I obviously, as someone that's fresh in this, I need, of course, some direction, some basis to work off. I understand, and wholeheartedly, I get it, and I get exactly where you're coming from. And
that's all I need to know is that you
yeah,
get it.
no, I do. I always have, like, my mum didn't fucking raise me to be a rapist, you know what I mean? Like, my mum didn't raise me to fucking disrespect me. I love my mum. Would I want that to happen to anyone else? I'm not stupid. I know all of this stuff.
So if your mum got raped by someone who she thought was handsome,
my dad was handsome as fuck.
you missed my point.
No, I know your point. No, I know your point. No, I get it. I get it 100%. I get it 100%. Would it still be because there's no consent? I know. Yeah. I know this.
Do we end with a song or how does
No, you end
I go out and we
Is there
come
any
back.
more questions from the tribunal?
No question.
And statements? No. Okay.
Statements probably, yeah, but we can do that at the
We
end.
can do that at the judgment.
Yeah, judgment.
So if you guys would like to, you're more than welcome to deliberate here. We can start setting up for the Yes or Women show, and we will return to live stream, I assume, when the judgment is ready, which may take, I don't know how long you guys need to discuss, but we're looking at. As the comedian's advocate, I was going to suggest that because we're in new territory in terms of coming up with penalties. As far as I'm concerned, I was going to ask you, Carl, have you performed much anywhere since the 25th of June?
No.
So there is time served to be considered between the 25th of June and now.
Time served,
Time
not
served,
doing
not doing comedy. My suggestion from the get-go was this was going to be very much like the football tribunal, that would be a suspension of weeks per se. For some reason, I've always had 6 weeks in my head. I've got no idea why. I put that forward to you as a proposition, although you may want to execute it. I have no idea what happens in this crazy mixed-up world. I think that execution might be a tad over the top.
Can
but
the witness make a suggestion? Maybe some sort of mandatory coaching
mandatory coaching.
to teach him how to write a good joke?
That's what I was going to say.
So there's nobody here who could do that.
Attending a certain number of workshops.
Maybe it's up to you. You guys
Before
will
we
do it.
retire, are there any further submissions on penalty before we...
Any further submissions from the gallery? We're opening this up to the gallery.
Having to stay for the entirety of the Yes or Women show.
Oh,
Not as a punishment,
that's
but
not
as
a
the
punishment.
as the coaching.
It's a reward.
Get the fuck out.
Coaching aspect.
What sort of misogyny? I know where you were coming from. You just came out all wrong. See how it works? We'll reconvene with the live stream when we get to the judgment. And if you want to come down for Yes or Women, it starts in 20 minutes, so you better race on down.
Streaming live video.
All right.